All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. On behalf of the Energize Colorado Gap Fund, we welcome you all to our presentation today. Unfortunately, we're not going to be hearing from the Climber Fund today, but we will make sure to get that information out to you. Additionally, if you are here and you are looking to listen to this in Spanish, you should see a little globe at the bottom right of your screen for interpretation, and you can jump over to the Spanish channel for there. Samantha or Amira, maybe it's worth throwing that in the chat as well, so folks that need to hop over there can do that additionally. So today we're going to be covering the Energize Colorado Gap Fund, and we can at a pretty high level cover a little bit of the Climber Fund that is coming out of OEdit's office. But with that, I will kind of dig in here with the team that we have. And so just going to do a quick round of introductions. I'll start with myself, and then I'll go over to Kenita. My name is Scott Romano. I'm the Director of Operations at Energize Colorado, Inc. I've been with the organization since May of 2020 when we did our first round of grants. So it's great to see so many familiar partners and individuals and businesses on the call as well. And Kenita, I will pass it over to you. Never mind, Ryan, let's go to you.
Yeah, and I'll do a more formal introduction, but Ryan Cobbins with the Gap Fund, and I'm going to launch that first part of the presentation. So I'll dive in a little bit more into my title and all that.
All right. We've got a great team on our side that is here to provide support through this whole process. So we've got Kenita Snow, who's our Director of Partnerships. So if you're a partner on the call, please feel free to connect directly with Kenita. We can drop all of our contact information in the chat for you, as well as Rebecca, who's the Director of our programming over here. And so with that, I think we can kind of dig in. And Ryan, I'll let you get started with the Gap Fund.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I appreciate it. And I mentioned this morning. This is a pretty exciting time to launch a series of workshops for our small businesses here in Colorado. And so my name is Ryan Cobbins. I'm the program director for the Energize Colorado Gap Fund. In the next few minutes, I'm going to give you a little bit more information in regards to our Gap Fund loan program. I'll also provide a little bit more information to the uses of those funds, and then also review some of the documentation required. What I find as a small business owner myself is that one of the things that either slows down or prohibits me from completing different applications, whether they're for grants or for loans, is ensuring that my documentation is in order. As some of you, like I am, you may walk in one day and you're the plumber, the next day you're the electrician, the next day if you have staff, you're the psychiatrist or psychologist. And so recognizing that we want to review some of the information that will be required and needed to complete some of the loan products, not just for the Gap Fund, but for other products as well. And so a pretty important piece. I'm going to go on and share my screen, and I'm going to go between this presentation being on PowerPoint and then stop sharing my screen as well. Before we get started, though, one of the things that I want to be able to do is to illustrate some of the differences in impact between grants and low interest loans. I'm recognizing this in the last 2 years. There have been more grant opportunities for small businesses, and I should say for-profit small businesses, than I feel like there have ever been. I am, like I mentioned, a small business owner. Our business turns 12 this year, and we're a retail business with 14 staff folks. And so, and throughout COVID, we recognized that grants provided some great support for small businesses. I just want to spend a quick second in recognizing such a great opportunity in the low interest loans that the Gap Fund is providing. And so, and here's what I want to say. as it becomes tax season now, with the tax deadline coming up pretty soon, one of the things that I realized personally is that the grants that I received throughout COVID were considered other revenue on our tax returns. So in effect, if our business was making money, in effect, some of those grant dollars would be taxed as income to the business in terms of our taxes. Where low interest loans, the interest payment on those loans gets recorded as an expense on the profit and loss statement or income statement. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what those are in some of our future workshops. But in effect, the interest being charged as an expense helps to reduce our tax liability. And so I wanted to mention that as an important piece. And we're not just talking about any type of loan, we're talking about low interest loans. And so let me provide a little bit more context around the type of loan that the GAP fund's providing. And so we're talking about loan sizes up to $20,000, terms of up to 36 months or 3 years, at an interest rate of 2.5%. Some of those uses for the GAP fund loan include things like payroll, rent, lease payments, utilities, debt consolidation, working capital, equipment, inventory. And one of the other pieces that we recognize other loan products have excluded, which are capital improvements. We recognize that almost in all, the economy was stalled for 2 years throughout COVID. And want to make sure our businesses are taken care of in terms of whatever capital improvements they want to take. As we move along, one of the conversations is, well, what does it take to actually apply for a GAP fund loan? Some of the requirements that I'm going to go through, you'll find a lot of similarities with other products that we'll have. And so it's a lengthy list that I'm about to go through, but I'm reminded of the philosophy of how do you eat an elephant? Well, you eat an elephant a bite at a time. And so we will also have, in addition to a number of different organizations that will support in terms of some of our partners, we'll have business advisors as well that will be helping to assist our small businesses around the state of Colorado, and also some specific geographical areas as well. And so let me dive right on in to some of those documents. One of the first things that we have here is a business plan. And to sum up a business plan, it's answering just a few questions. And one of those questions is, it's what are your goals for the business? How are you going to attain those goals? It's the objectives and strategies for achieving your business goals. And so some of those areas of a business plan are things such as a description of your business, specific market research or strategies, I should say, and strategies, and what are your competitors and how will you market, how will you manage the business, and then your financial documents. And so we'll touch on those financial documents here pretty soon. Additional requirements include entity documents such as the Colorado Secretary of State documents that include the articles of organization, articles of incorporation, certificate of good standing, and just depending on what type of business you may be, whether it's an LLC or a sole proprietorship or S Corp. Industry specific licenses. So these are things such as occupational licenses or professional licenses that you're required to have in order to do business. They may also include sales tax license. If you're in the food and beverage industry, it may be an environmental health license as well. We have address verification, as simple as a utility bill that shows your address, bank statement, or so forth. your personal and business bank statements. And here it references 3 months, but want to make sure that we have, or that the lender will have, all the information that they may need. In addition to personal business bank statements, there's personal business tax returns as well. And because our loan that the GAP fund has is requiring businesses to be operational for 2 years, we would require 1 to 2 years of business tax returns, recognizing that as we jump into 2022, 2021 tax returns may not be prepared. So in essence, 2020 tax returns would be required if you're at that 2-year mark. Profit and loss statement or income statement, and these are one of the same, but we would want year-to-date profit and loss statement, a balance sheet as well, and then financial projections. You'll see a few of these things highlighted in a different color: the business plan, the profit and loss statement, balance sheet, and financial projections. We want to help our small businesses ensure that they're able to know what those documents are and how to complete them. I remember when I started my journey trying to figure out putting together a profit and loss statement, a balance sheet, and then of course financial projections were sometimes challenging, as I didn't major in accounting. And so through the process of completing them, my mind obviously became a little bit more organized in terms of the profit and loss illustrating your revenue and your expenses, the balance sheet illustrating what assets that you may have or liabilities, and then our financial projections, which get attached to a business plan as well, which then illustrate your outlook for the business. And so quotes for equipment to be purchased may also be included. And then lastly, in some cases, collateral. And so collateral could be equipment that the business has purchased, inventory, jewelry, autos, automobiles, and so forth. And so, so that's a list. It looks like a hefty list. Like I mentioned, we have business advisors that will walk our small businesses through profit and loss, balance sheet, financial projections, and then also the business plan. Those are 4 documents that almost, once we get those 4 done, it makes things a little bit easier in terms of course, filing taxes and so forth. Lastly, I'll note some of our ineligible borrowers would include folks in the cannabis business, gambling businesses, businesses with more than 25 employees, and then businesses operating less than 2 years. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen real quick. And so that wraps up the GAP fund loans. And then Scott, Kenita, or Rebecca, I am not sure if Marvin's on, but Scott, I'll kick it over to you.
No worries. I'm going to actually add one last thing on the GAP fund here, which is that if you do receive a loan via the GAP fund, you have the option to opt into a 12-week-long accelerator program. And we call it an accelerator, but really it's more of a kind of business growth incubator in that sense. So for 12 weeks, about 2 hours every week, you would be able to access sort of a tailored program in a cohort of 8 to 10 businesses like yours in one of those 4 communities, which means that you'll have access to some technical assistance programming that either would, outside of the program, cost you money to attend, or you would have to access as an individual. And so this cohort of 8 to 10 businesses really gives you a chance to kind of double down in improving your business overall, ranging across a number of things from technology adoption, business operations, developing that kind of greater sense of community. But overall, it's about learning the different technical assistance programs that are out there for businesses like yours, and additionally, additional funding that might be available for a business like yours. And so this accelerator program is one of the pieces that I am by far the most excited about, that makes this GAP fund loan stand out as nicely as it does, especially compared to the other loans that are out on the market right now. I'm going to take a moment and see if we have any other questions. I'm looking at some in the chat, so I'm going to
We do,
answer.
Scott. And so if we can run through those, that'd be great.
Yeah. So I have been tracking those and I can ask the two of you to answer. We've answered a couple in the chat, but we have some questions specifically about businesses having 2 years in business and what exactly that means. So a couple specific questions. What if a business closed down because of COVID and is trying to get started back up?
That's a good question. And so I'm going to answer that in almost 2 or 3 different ways. And so my first answer is recognizing, especially through COVID, a lot of businesses will have individual circumstances, and they may not be individual, but circumstances that may provide that may need additional context, or we may need additional context. Number one, or the second thing I would say is there are products for businesses that have been in business for less than 2 years. Part of what we want to do with our workshops is provide that information, and we'll get that information out as well. My section was basically about just one of the many products, which is the gap fund loan, which we're requiring business to be operational for 2 years. And so I think I saw a third piece of that too, Rebecca. Does operational mean accepting revenue? That's a good question. On one hand, a short answer would be most likely yes. Scott, I don't know if you want to provide some additional context. I mean, in essence, we recognize some businesses through COVID may have opened up years ago, but through COVID had a temporary closure. That would be an exemption, right? So if you just reopened and you have been open for a year, I would recognize that business has been open for when you started the business. And a lot of these things we would be able to tell through the Colorado Secretary of State as well.
Yeah, so as long as you've been registered at the Secretary of State's office and you have continued to renew that license for 2 years, we do qualify that as a business in operation. Now, for any sort of loan underwriting process, we are going to want to see financial documentation that does that would prove you're able to take on debt at this amount and then sort of make those monthly repayments back. And so that's not to say you have to go after the full $20,000 loan. You can obviously go lower than that. I believe the minimum loan amount we can do is about $5,000. And so with that being said, financial documentation and proof of revenue will definitely help you apply for our loan program. But like Ryan is saying, if you are looking to get started, there are other programs available more specific to that, including the Startup Loan Fund, which is getting ready to launch this summer, that we can share more information on as well towards the end.
Yeah, and so we'll drop Ryan's email in the chat. So if any of you have very specific questions about the gap fund loan or other loan availability, we can answer those questions because there are quite a few on here about very specific situations. So the other question that came in is if we're providing a certificate of attendance for the Zoom, if you would like one. I assume we can. If you need something specific, you can email Kanita. She threw her email in the Q&A if you click Q&A at the bottom. So we'll go from that and we will answer one more question. Scott, a question came in if you don't mind grabbing that.
Yeah. So Denise, what type of products or support do you have for women-owned businesses? Great question. So we do have included prioritization in our loan application for women-owned businesses. So you'll get an extra point on your rubric per se for your application. But additionally, some of the partners that we are engaging with building out the programming in our accelerator are women, are specific to women business owners. And overall, the programming there is a lot more centered on kind of the community focus. If you have a chance, we've got a women-owned business Facebook group that's got a little over, I think it's 1,200 members at this point. And I highly encourage you to join it. Maybe Rebecca or Kanita, you could drop that link in the chat for the Women-Owned Business Facebook group. But it's a great place to recognize some of the resources that are available for businesses like yours. What about immediate access to funding if your business is on the brink of closing? So Heather, our capital won't be available until about June. So we expect the application to open early May and to close about May 22nd or 24th. And then from there, payments will be made early to mid-June. So unfortunately, we can't do immediate access to funding, but I'm happy to see if we can find some resources and send those over to you as well.
And I just dropped my email in chat. And so feel free to email me and I can point to our resource compass, which has been a valuable resource for businesses, and also some potential other additional options. I did see a question as well, Scott, whether or not our funds are available for nonprofits, and that answer is yes as well.
And Jose, if you've got 3 businesses, can you apply for 3 different businesses? Yes, but we will only be able to likely fund one of those businesses. So I would recommend likely choosing your whichever one is going to be the highest application kind of quality or information that we can make that loan decision on for you. And I know Marvin is trying to get in right now, so it'll just be a moment here.
And if anybody has any additional questions, they can post those, and I know that will help others on the call as well. Hello, Marvin. How are you?
Greetings to
Marvin,
everyone.
good to see you.
Yes, sir.
And I know you're just settling in. And if you're ready, I will do a brief introduction, or Scott will. I was prepared to. Scott, let me know. We're about to fight over doing your introduction.
Ryan, you can go for it. But Marvin, I've got your deck pulled up if you would like me to share it.
Okay.
So let me do a brief introduction, because I met Marvin some time ago, and I tend to gravitate toward folks that are willing to help other people out, knowing that there's no vested interest in them, whether or not whatever they're trying to offer you is accepted or not. And so I appreciate the time that Marvin has spent with me. He is with the Office of Economic Development and International Trade in their Capital Community Relations department, also doing the good work of helping our small businesses around the state of Colorado get access to funding and capital. And so, Marvin, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure.
And Scott will pull up your deck for you.
Thanks for that introduction. I am here, as Ryan has just said, I am with the Access to Capital Community Relations Manager for the state of Colorado. We have a number of great programs and a number of great fun opportunities available for entrepreneurs, startups, those who are currently existing as businesses here in this great state of Colorado. Currently, I am associated with the Colorado Startup Loan Fund, and this particular fund is a $31 million fund, and it's in the early stages of signing agreements and preparing for the deployment of this summer 2022. So I want to make that clear. That is not available today, tonight, tomorrow for application. However, it will be available for deployment come the summer, and I don't know which of the months of the summer. It may be May, it may be June, it may be July. So I'm just going to say the summer of 2022. This particular fund is available for every type of business, every type of entrepreneur, every type of venture here in the state of Colorado seeking access to capital. I cannot tell you the minimum loan amounts. I cannot tell you the maximum loan amounts. I'm not prepared to talk about interest rates, terms, and conditions. However, I will tell you that Senate bill has been passed by the Honorable James Coleman here in Denver, and we're looking forward to deploying these $31 million funds for businesses located in Colorado. Secondly, I am associated with the Climber Loan Fund. This is a $250 million loan fund that is being managed out of or at least being funded out of the state Treasurer's Office, the Honorable David Young. And this particular loan fund is available right now, today, tonight, this week. It has a minimum loan amount of $30,000 and a maximum loan amount of $500,000. One of the great aspects about this, ladies and gentlemen, is it has an option for a 1-year deferment. A 1-year deferment is extremely, I think the 1-year deferment, I think that's my deck there. That 1-year deferment is very important for businesses looking to rebound from COVID or looking to start during this post-COVID atmosphere. It also has very low interest rates, below market's interest rates, as they say. And yeah, there we go right there. Some of the information, you see the minimum loan amount, the length and term. I think we're looking to have, we're not prepared to advertise it, but we're looking to have our terms to exceed 10 years as it's been advertised to 5. So there's been some adjustments to this, ladies and gentlemen, where we're making this more appealable, more accessible to the needs of our borrowers. And it's for nonprofits or profits. It's just a great tool considering the atmosphere that we've just come out of in the most recent 1 or 2 years. And it is, as I said, it is active now. I do think some of the other legislative points that will be coming down the pike is we're looking to go, instead of a 30,000 minimum, it might be dropping to 10,000 minimum. But right now, what you see advertised on the sheet is what we have available there. And I am willing to chat with anyone that may have some questions about the Climber Loan Fund. Since I hear silence, that means folks are reading and look. Where can we go to get more information? Right there you see, www.climber/colorado.com, and you'll see the Climber at Chaffa. They are our manager of this fund, and you see a phone number, 720-580-3832. And some of the eligible uses, I think we have some real great things there. Are current property taxes, utilities, rent, supplies, existing debt. There are a number of eligible, yes, there they are. There are a number of eligible uses in the event that someone is looking for, let's say you're looking to expand, move down the street, move down the hall, move to another county within Colorado. You can do some tenant finish out, leasehold improvements. All of these types of features are eligible uses under the Climber Loan Fund. And I think some of us are concerned about, will there be a requirement for a number of employees? Will it be pretty much to follow? I'm trying to read here. Is there years in business revenue generating requirements? Yes, that's an excellent question. Your business plan, your pro forma will also list what type of business you are. Here we have at least 2 years consecutive of positive cash flow. We're looking to drop that down to potentially 1 year. And the debt service ratio, at least 1-to-1 prior to February 29, 2020. There you see that category. Any suggestions for businesses that has credit issues due to COVID to be able to receive one-on-one? That's a great question, because right now there are so many organizations such as the Energize Gap Fund that has what we call in the industry technical advisors. And technical advisors are individuals, professionals, consultants that will help in that question regarding credit. You have to understand, folks, that the Climber Loan Fund and the Startup Loan Fund, it is not FICO driven like the traditional lenders have followed over the years. FICO meaning your FICO score, TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax, and you divide all three and you come up with a credit score. What we have here is a number of credit-based mission, a number of mission-based lenders known as CDFIs that are looking to review your application from a different perspective. Your credit issues, if you do have some credit issues, there are a number of technical advisors available to help you on credit repair, credit removal, and any adjustments that there may need to be done within your credit. That's something that will be done on an individual basis once you've been assigned to a technical advisor.
And Marvin, there's a question in the chat from Denise about what about funding for startups or new businesses opening in 2022, businesses that have not yet been open for a year.
Right.
So I know we're a little early on Startup Loan Fund,
Yeah.
but maybe you could just point us where to get information when it does go live.
Yeah, the great thing about that is for your startup and you're looking to start your business right now, I would recommend you find access to some of the great technical advisors here in our marketplace, and they can help you with the preparation of your analysis, your pro forma, your projections, all of that type of information will need to be compiled in your checklist. And every lender, whether it's a CDFI or a traditional lender, they're all going to require a particular checklist, and that checklist will be if you are a incorporation, if you're an assumed name, if you're a sole proprietor, you can access, yes, you can access quite a bit of that through the SBDC. And as a matter of fact, the SBDC has a number of grant programs that will help and assist startups from that point of view. Do you know where the startup loan will go live or not yet? This summer, 2022 is the best I can say in that regard. Lauren and Denise, the SBDCs will also help you identify new sources of capital. Yes, they will. That is a great point. There are, I would like to say, as old as I am, I've never seen so many avenues for access to cash right now, Scott. And I think Ryan will also agree with this. Our country has a myriad of programs, CDFIs, lenders, nonprofits that have really a large amount of funds that are available. The great point here that I want to emphasize is that you're ready and you're prepared and you have your documentation. Once you have a lot of that, your business plan, your following that checklist, your EIN number, your P&L, your projections, your analysis of how successful your business is going to be. If that's professionally written and prepared, you're going to have a great opportunity to access the capital that's available right now in the marketplace. To hop in on a minute.
Thank you very much. And then I'm also going to drop a link in chat here for everyone. And this is how you can access some of the business advisors that we have here at Energize Colorado. They use a tool that we've built out called a resource compass, which categorizes most, if not all, of the capital and technical assistance providers across the state. And they'll be able to kind of help guide and navigate you to that right resource as well.
I'm going to put in some information here, my email and my phone number, in the event that folks would like to call with their additional questions, their additional concerns, and there's my email there available to you. I'll do as much as I can with what we can work with on the Startup Loan Fund. Right now, we're finalizing the agreements with our lenders, and that negotiation will entail terms and conditions. Once that's finalized, we think we should be able to deploy around June. However, the Colorado Startup Loan Fund is available today, right now, and feel free to call me for any additional information that you may have during that viewing of the deck that Scott had put up on the screen.
Marvin, I think we want to flip that. The Startup Loan Fund, we're expecting to be available in June, but Climber Loan Fund is available today.
Available now, yes.
All right, thank you very much. So in our last 20 minutes here, we are more than happy just to answer any questions that come in from the crowd. Can we get the email here, please? Yes, Jennifer, we can. 1 second. There you go. That is Marvin's email and phone
Yes.
number for you. And I'm seeing another question come in about those of us who are looking for grants, loans in smaller amounts. 10K would be more than enough for me and my business. Chris, that's a great question. So to add a fine point to it, the maximum loan amount from the Energize Colorado Gap Fund is $20,000, but you are able to apply for less than that full $20,000 amount. That minimum is about $5,000. And so you would be more than welcome to apply just for the 10K that you would need.
I would like to say to those that are listening, every one of the major banks, the top 10, 15, 20 major banks in this country, they have what we call in the industry a foundation. The PNC Bank has the PNC Foundation. US Bank has the US Foundation. Wells Fargo has a foundation. Many of these foundations do offer grants available to nonprofits and to startups. What you have to do is a little digging and a little research on finding what foundation is located in what community and in what footprint, as we call it in the marketplace. But please know that every one of the large banks, maybe the top 10 or 50 banks in this country, especially in this state, they do have foundations. Some even have CDFIs, but most of them have foundations, and they would be more than willing, more than happy to entertain your application for a grant. It's just getting it in time and writing it up in such a way where you'll receive a approval.
Thank you very much, Marvin. All right, any other questions from the crowd? What is the state of Colorado doing to provide funding and financial support to marginalized communities? Same questions for the arts. Denise, great question. So the Energize Colorado Gap Fund does provide prioritization for members of 4 different priority groups: women, veterans, BIPOC or minority, as well as rural Colorado. And so those will all lead to additional prioritization for your loan application via the Gap Fund. Marvin, maybe you can speak to Climber or potentially Startup Loan Fund.
Yeah, the Startup Loan Fund, that bill, Senate Bill 1231 or 1221, it has specific language for the underserved community. And keep in mind, many of the banks in this country have a CRA requirement where they are to serve those communities where their footprint is located. However, the CDFIs have a specific mission to address the marginalized needs of its community. And I can send anyone a list of who the CDFIs are in the state. Just feel free to communicate that to me. But many of the marginalized communities now have more accessibility to capital than ever before. It's just doing your research and being around to know how to access that. As far as the federal grants are available, I'm really not available, or I'm really not knowledgeable of who has federal grants to start a business. That might be an SBA or a US Treasury question. And I do have some information from the Federal Reserve, which is located right here in Denver, and they have resources and potential questions and answers for that issue of grants starting a business.
And Diana as well, the SBDC consultants that we referenced earlier, they should also be able to share some knowledge about federal grant and loan programs as well, because the SBDCs are nested under the SBA, the Small Business Administration. So a great resource for you there.
Let me reiterate one more time, and this is one of the challenges that startups and entrepreneurs and marginalized businesses sometimes struggle with. Your business plan has to be well written, and your business plan has to have some identifiable projections and metrics and data so that whoever is reviewing your application will see the plausibleness and the reasonableness of your request. Just because you are a marginalized community member, that doesn't automatically mean that you're going to receive X amount for a grant. What that means is you need to really write up your proposal and your request very succinctly. This is why we have the SBDC, Energize Gap Fund, technical advisors throughout our community that's available to help you in that regard.
Thank you. And then one last note here before we hop off is that we are going to be doing a series of business planning sessions, actually, in part because we will require a business plan, at least more of an informal version for the Energize Colorado Gap Fund loans. But as Marvin just highlighted, more programs do require this. And so we are going to be offering those workshops on April 12th and May 3rd at this same time, 4 to 5 p.m. And it'll be a chance to walk through more of that informal business model canvas, which is a kind of methodology for planning out a business, but it will also inform you on how you need to build out more of a robust full business plan as well. So it's a great place to kind of start, especially if you've never done one before. Personally, I love the business model canvas. I find often more outside of it really isn't necessary, but obviously some application, especially federal programs, do require it. So it'll be April 12th and May 3rd at the same time. And you can register for it at the link that I dropped in chat. And Diana, we will be sending out a recap after this meeting with some of the links and information that we've showcased today. Yeah, so look out for that after the fact. Not seeing any more questions come in, I think we are all good to wrap it up on this beautiful yet surprisingly windy Tuesday afternoon.
Yes.
So with that being said, Marvin, thank you for your time.
Yes,
Kenita, Rebecca,
and
Maisie,
audience,
Ryan.
please feel free to give me a call and an email. I'm available at your convenience. Don't ever think that you have a question that's not appropriate. Please give me a call and please email me whenever you can.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you all very much. Have an excellent rest of your Tuesday. We look forward to hearing from you soon.
Thank you, guys.